What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you enjoyed last week's video. It was pretty much my first crack at doing oil seals on an engine, especially an engine in the car. Done them before on an engine stand, as I stated at the beginning of last week's video, but first time in the car, knocked it out of the park. Fingers crossed, we hope everything's good. When we ran it that night, everything was good. Once again, I forgot to bring my jump pack. I leave it at home because that's where the dailies live. And, well, I've never once needed it at home, but I've needed it here. So in Murphy's Law though, I just know the moment I bring it here, because I've never used it at home, I'm gonna go to work one morning and not actually show up at work because I can't start my car and my jump pack is all the way across town here. Regardless, I forgot to bring it again today. Last time we shut it off, the battery was still at like 11.9 volts, so it should be good. The oil light did start flashing at me, and I thought that was really weird because I took off the rear balance shaft, which is also a part of the oil pump housing, and it was flashing at me and I was like, what the hell's going on there? I don't like that one bit. But I ended up actually taking off the oil cap, and as you can see, all the splatter everywhere. So it was definitely making oil pressure. I could see it puddling up in there, and yeah. Anyways, it's time to actually start wrapping things up. So let's go over that really quickly before we jump in. Up here on top of the car, I've got a lower rad hose, I've got an upper rad hose, I've got the alternator, AC and power steering belt, I have got a thermostat, a PCV grommet, and a valve cover kit. Down here, I've got 2 jugs of coolant, because if you guys have been watching, if you haven't, be a video, or there'll be a card up here, but we filled it up with water just to test, make sure nothing leaked. I have got a jug of 530 high mileage oil. This isn't typical oil that we run around here. For dailies, I kind of like to stick to Mobil 1, but Pennzoil is good stuff. It's high mileage and it was on sale, so it's really hard to beat that. Full synthetic as well for the boosted Civic and things like that. We obviously run Liqui Moly or Motul. Also got ourselves a little AC Delco oil filter and a kit of crush washers for the drain plug. And when you lock the balance shaft in place, there's actually a drain plug. That's what you take out, and it has a washer. So I'm wondering if these will also fit that, because I never replaced that. So I could replace that now since it came as a kit. But I think that's enough talking. Today, what I want to do is tackle the engine mount, so I can finally get the jack stand from out under the engine, and I would also like to drain the oil. And obviously we just have water in here, but before I can drain this and replace it with actual coolant, I've got to replace the upper hose, which literally could not be easier. And then the lower hose, which is a little bit more difficult. Back here will be easy once the air box is out of the way, but this goes way down under like the front cross member down there, so I'll have to crawl in. But these need to get replaced. Thermostat, this needs to get drained and filled with proper coolant. But like I said, today, let's start by getting this engine mount on, getting this thing an oil change, and then we're gonna rip it again and see how it does before we tackle the rest of everything. All right, fellas, now if my calculations are calculating, I believe that, well, I don't believe, I know, I mean the engine mount's on, so we can take this off. Ready? Is the engine gonna fall down? Yeah, literally nothing happened. Free bird, yeah. Probably can't sing that, I'm gonna get copyright. With all that out of the way, engine mount's back on. In theory, I could put the upper and lower cover back on, but like I said, I wanna do the oil change. I wanna run it one more time for a solid 10-15 minutes. Once it passed that test, covers are going back on, baby. Then it's onto the cooling system and the valve cover goodies. But now that we've got all that done, obviously, we gotta change the oil so it can run with the new oil and see if it leaks with that. I doubt it would if it doesn't leak with this, because this oil is obviously a lot thinner. Fingers crossed, no coolant in it. We kind of left it on a cliffhanger last week with pulling the oil pump off and seeing coolant come out of it. I think because the water pump sits above it and that gasket was so brittle it literally cracked in half, that it's probably just the water pump blew and let some coolant in there. But since it is an oil pump, if that did happen and we did run it, still could have mixed some coolant in the oil. So before I run it anymore, I want to go ahead and give her an oil change. And yeah, I don't know what else I'm talking about here, so let's oil change. The Accord is about done draining. Obviously, we got to get the filter out as well. We got a new crush washer on our drain plug, and it is a magnetic drain plug at that. And there was no metal on the tip of it when I took it off, which was sweet. I took it off, held it, immediately went over to the sink, inspected it, and blasted it clean with brake clean and a new crush washer on it. So that is good to go. The pan is looking a little how you going, but you got to remember last night we dumped about, I don't know, I'd say a quarter cup of coolant in there from the water, from the oil pump coming off. So that could be what's mixing with it. A good sign will be the oil filter and looking in there with a flashlight and seeing if there's anything that looks a little bit weird. But oil actually didn't seem that thin. It was pretty thick coming out, which is good, but it's dark. We've kind of put it past its oil change interval. Anyways, clean drain plug, fresh washer. I got to go under there still and rip that oil filter off, replace it. I'm interested to look at that. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. It's an oil change. It's simple. I mean, come on. Okay, boys, we are putting the oil filter in. Lube up the seal. Spin this sucker back on. And now we're just going to double check that the drain is nice and snug. That's good. Filter, that's good. All right, so we've got our old oil filter filled up with oil. We'll inspect that in a separate cup here. I can't lie though, from what I'm seeing so far, it does look pretty clean. Thank God. All right, I've got my little table laid out here. Old oil filter. Not much in there, to be honest. And hold it up to the light. Smells like engine oil. It actually kind of smells like fuel a little bit. It's not super thin. The viscosity, as you can see, is coating the cup really well. I don't see any bubbles or anything in it at all. Actually still has a golden tinge. There's not a whole lot. Doesn't appear or smell or look like there's coolant in there or anything that shouldn't necessarily be in there. So I'm incredibly happy with that. I mean, really can't complain with that. Let's go ahead, fill this thing up with oil, but let's run this sucker. Why not, right? Let's run this sucker. All right, so battery back in and we can start it. We're only gonna run it for a little bit, shut it off, check the oil again. Right now it's directly at half, but the car is also up on jack, so that could be contributing to some things. So I might need to give another half-liter drink or so, but we're gonna fire it up, see how she do, and yeah, let's give her. Nice and smooth, baby. 11.9. Crazy work that it's still that high after running it 3 times. That's wild. Anyways, I'm just gonna check for leaks and check the oil, so we'll come back in a sec. All right, guys, so I checked the oil level. It was a tad low. It was on the low dot, so I put in about another 3/4 to a liter in. We got it running again. Gave me a bit of a scare because when I flicked the key, it just went tink, and I thought the battery was dead, but it's still at like 11.9 volts, which is weird. Should definitely start with that. We were noticing a couple drips looking from the bottom up. Looks like there's a drip like on the tensioner. It could be residual. It's really hard to say, but everything, when you look directly at the seals, looks good. Fingers crossed, knock on wood for me, boys. Just added some oil. We're letting it run, and probably gonna cycle this a couple times and well, just see where it gets us, really. And there we have it. The Accord started back up, got fresh oil in it, checked the oil twice after running it, and it is now good to go with that little bit that we had to top up. No oil leaks out of the drain plug, the filter, the drain plug for the balance shaft, any of the oil seals I just put in, we are looking absolutely dialed. Next time we can go ahead and get the upper and lower cover on, new valve cover gasket, new PCV, new thermostat, 2 new coolant hoses, upper and lower, and fill it up with some coolant. But for now, that's all she wrote, baby. Fresh oil change, finally no leaks. We can put those covers on and start reassembling and putting on the last few pieces of parts that we have for this car. Love this. Finally. What's going on, boys? We are back for day 2. Last week you seen us do the oil change, get a couple other things buttoned up. Now today is kind of the home stretch day. So I'm not gonna do too much explaining except for right now. So we have the timing covers off still. So first I'm gonna take the crank hub off, put the lower cover on, put the crank hub on with a little Loctite on the bolt. Gonna put the upper cover on, probably gonna have to take off this engine mount, which is a massive piss off. I honestly low-key forgot about that, and that's a huge pain in the butt. So I'm gonna start with doing the 2 top covers. Obviously valve cover has to come off, this engine mount has to come off, that crank hub has to come off, lower cover, top cover, new valve cover gasket, new PCV. Once that's done and the covers are on and everything's put back together, I can then go ahead and start assembling the bracketry for the alternator with the new belt. I can start assembling the power steering with the new belt. I can put the cruise control back in, and then we move over to the radiator, and it's still filled up with hose water, which has minerals in it, not good. But we got a lower hose, upper hose, and a thermostat to do. Airbox is gonna need to come out of the way, so she's gonna go ahead and start tackling some stuff that needs to come out of the way while I'm over here getting the rest of the timing side situated and put back together. All right, well, if the clip previous to this didn't have the best audio, it's because I forgot my mic on. I think the internal mic on this is okay though, but anyways, regardless. Let's do a little update. Where we're at now, I've got the engine back on an engine, or on a jack stand, engine mount off. I did retension the belts, got about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of deflection, a little bit of play. Timing belt has, or balance shaft belt has more play down there, but for me it was just a little bit loose. Also, there's an ear on the timing belt tensioner down there that has a bolt hole to go through it. You don't need to run it, so I'm not going to run one. I've snugged down the main tensioner, this bolt here, and everything should be good. Obviously, I'm gonna spin it over one more full time, but while I was doing that, we also got the timing cover, the lower one, all cleaned up with this gasket back on, and we actually used a little bit of super glue to kind of hold the gasket there, because I tried putting it in and the gasket kept falling down. So we fully cleaned all the surfaces, used a little bit of super glue just simply to hold it in place. And now that that's all good, I'm gonna go ahead and try and reinstall that right now.
2,000 years later.
Lower timing cover is back on. Now I've got to go ahead, stick in the dipstick, stick on the crank hub, and then I can go ahead, pop the valve cover off, slap on the top cover. Once that's on, regasket the valve cover with the new PCV, chuck the engine mount back on, and then fingers crossed, this should all be situated. Enough talking, let's get back to it. All right, and there we have it, boys. Now I've got the upper and lower cover on. I've got the dipstick on. I've got the valve cover with the fresh gasket, fresh hardware, fresh spark tube seals. Spark plug wires are back in. New PCV is on. Breather over there is on. Valve cover, and everything should be good here. Engine mounts on. The jack's out from under the engine. The crank hub is on. Now what we have to do is put the alternator back in first and foremost with the belt, tension it. Then we got to put the power steering pump back on, grab this, bring it back over here, hook up the connector, bolt it in, and hook up the vacuum line. Then this whole side of the engine is done. Time to drain this, get the 2 new hoses on with the thermostat, and we should be good. I'm running out of time a little bit. Kind of nervous about the radiator hoses and stuff today, but we'll just see what we can get done.
2,000 years later.
Well, after about half an hour of wrestling with the damn alternator belt, this is the one that come off of it. As we can see, dry rotted as hell. It is a Continental PK1105, right? Trash, we don't want that. Next up is the one that we just bought from Rock Auto. Continental PK1100. Not cracked, good to go, same rib. Would not go on. I don't even have the alternator tensioner on. The alternator can't get any looser. This thing will not go on. So, emergency trip to the parts store, and we have this AC Delco belt. There's the part number. It is longer, same rib, has to work. But yeah, on Rock Auto, these belts, they're around 15 to 20 bucks, okay? This belt was $50. I am not stoked right now, but this better fit. I'll catch back up with you guys in a sec when I see if this fits. Well, I sure feel like an idiot. That indeed was the wrong belt. Right belt went on with ease. Everything's tensioned, good to go. Let's get the power steering pump. Let's get the cruise control back in place. And I don't have time for the radiator today. I just freaking don't. Might come back tomorrow, might not. We'll see. This car is so bloody close, but I just don't have time for that today. I got to edit this video. You know the deal. Let's get this back on. Let's get that back on. But then we can fire it up at least. And you know, alternator's on, so it's gonna charge. Alrighty boys, fast forward a couple minutes and the job is done. I still got to put on my ground, I can't forget that, but cruise control back in, vacuum line connected, control connected, power steering back on, belt is tensioned, everything is tight, alternator wires hooked back up, tightened down, alternator belt tensioned accordingly, everything should be good. If we get some belt squeal, we might need to loosen some off just a hair. But everything should be situated except for this triple ground right here. So I'm gonna go put that back on. We have our battery connected right there. New valve cover gasket, new oil, new PCV, new timing belt, balance shaft belt, water pump, all the oil seals behind there. Engine mount is back on and tight. The only thing we have to do now is upper, lower rad hose, thermostat, but that's gonna have to be for a different day because I gotta edit this video. So that is the last thing, is just the cooling system. But with the battery back in, we'll push this back into its bracket, just like that. I'll go ahead and get this ground hooked up and we'll fire it. All right, here it is. One last look. Got the ground on. Everything's connected. Good to go. We are about to find out, boys. All right, well, battery's connected. Nothing left to do. Just jump in here. Just like that. Let it do its thing. And here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Belts are running. And we're looking good so far, boys. Power steering belt, alternator belt, covers, oil, PCV not screaming anymore, valve cover gasket. We're looking dialed as can be, boy. Boom, there it is. Car's running, everything's good, no belt squeal, thank God. We still have a little bit more work to do. Flush the cooling system, upper, lower rad hose, and a thermostat. that's gonna have to be in another video. Honestly, I did not expect the Accord series to run this long, but it was also just supposed to be a timing belt and water pump kit, which turned into doing the balance shafts, which turned into undoing it all to redo all the oil seals behind it, put it all back together. And then when I was massaging the hoses, I was like, dang, they're a little bit, they can feel them cracking, so I might as well do hoses. And then I'm like, well, if the lower hose is off and the thermostat's right there, you guys get the deal. It's one thing after another after another. This was supposed to be a quick timing belt, water pump, maybe 1, maybe 2 video series, and now we're on video 4 and we have video 5 coming. I apologize, boys. Hopefully you aren't too bored watching the Accord series, but this is the daily. Two-door CB7 is actually quite a rare car, especially in the EXR, Canadian only. So it's a pretty cool little rig, but I know you guys have been dying to get back to Turbo Civic action and also see if we're gonna be copping another car this year. And I'd really like to grab another car. But we're also grabbing another vehicle this year that's not necessarily a vehicle that you guys have seen on the channel before. I'm gonna leave you with that little cliffhanger, but if you guys are enjoying this series and watching me get down, deep, dirty, and technical, fixing everything wrong with my daily driver, go ahead, comment, like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on so you don't miss out when we upload. We always post shorts multiple times a week and 1 long form video a week. And have no fear, we got lots more videos coming on the Civic, and if you haven't watched the full build series on this, there is hours and hours and hours and hours of videos. You guys can go back and watch us building this beautiful gloss black B16 big turbo swapped EG hatch. So make sure to go ahead and check that out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Once again, comment, like, subscribe, turn the notification bells on. It really helps out your boy. The channel's finally popping off, so the more traction we can get, the better. Tell your friends, your mom, your dad, tell everyone, your relatives, your cousins, your enemies, tell everyone. You know what I'm saying? Let's blow this up. Let's get building more cool shit. And hopefully only 1 more video on the Accord, and then we'll be dailying this thing again, and we can move back to cool aftermarket mods and potentially new vehicles that you guys have never seen before, especially on this channel. So enough blabbering. I'm gonna call it there. Peace out, boys.